It's time to hear from our candidate from the 35th State Assembly District. But before we get started, I do want to make it clear, both candidates were offered the opportunity to attend the event. Assemblyman Jordan Cunningham accepted, so I will spotlight Assemblymember Cunningham.
Thank you all for taking the time to join me by Zoom. I want to start by talking about what we've been able to do together over the last 4 years that I've been serving the State Assembly. There's some very positive things going on the Central Coast, and we have a lot of issues we still need to work on, in particular, all of the fallout from this pandemic, both economically and health-wise. We're going to all continue working through that together. I made it a major focus thus far in my time in the Assembly to focus on infrastructure development on the Central Coast. We got funding in my first term to fix the dangerous Highway 4146 interchange. That's a $150 million project. It's supposed to break ground next year. I'm very proud of that. Worked with Governor Brown's administration to get that done. And that freeway, as most of you probably know, that section of road has a fatality rate of 3 times the state average. And it's a major connector culturally and economically from the Central Valley to the Central Coast, from Salinas Valley down to Southern California. A lot of produce gets shipped along that corridor. So that's a big win for us. We've got to work together to transition to the post-Diablo Canyon local economy. I think Diablo Canyon's power is necessary. It's 9% of the state's grid. It's carbon-free, but it's slated to be decommissioned in 2025. I worked with Senator Monning in a bipartisan fashion to get SB 1090 signed into law, which we were able to accomplish. And that was $82 million of community impact funding into our schools and into our county and our cities. It was over $120 million of workforce money, so we could keep the qualified workforce we have there and make sure it stays open through 2025. And that was a big win for our community. We've got a lot more work to do. We've invested through Prop 1 water bond money. We've had 4 projects locally for wastewater treatment to expand our local water supply. I think we can do more on that front. We can do more with desalination at Diablo Canyon. Maybe we use that plant, repurpose it for local use. We need to generate more power. These brownouts are showing, and the heat wave is showing that our energy grid is very precarious in California. I think we should be looking at offshore wind development. I've been working both on the federal level and the state level to try to promote the development of offshore wind power. And that would replace some of Diablo's jobs. And that's our big question. That's one of our biggest challenges. Once we get through this pandemic, my office has helped over 4,000 people to date since March. Over 4,000 people have had issues with the EDD, the state agency that's in charge of distributing unemployment benefits to people that are out of work due to COVID and other reasons. EDD is a complete mess. We need to overhaul the agency. It's not doing its job. It's not serving any of us well. Over 4,000 people have had technical difficulties that we've been able to help them with and get resolved. I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of my team working so hard to essentially pick up the slack from a state agency that's really failing Californians. We have worked hard to protect the taxpayer. I was honored to be recognized last year as the California Small Business Legislator of the Year. I've been fighting for small business in the Assembly for 4 years. We need voices for small business. We need people that understand the critical importance of small business to employing people into the cultural fabric of our communities. You look at go to any soccer field, any Little League field, you'll find a small business on the back of that jersey as a sponsor to that local team. We need more people in Sacramento that have run a small business like my wife and I do, that have experience with that and know how to work in a positive way through the legislature to try to make sure that they are not forgotten. Major corporations and big tech companies have big lobbies and they tend to get what they want out of the state legislature. But if you don't have a representative that's an effective, powerful voice for small business, then they are often left out in the cold or they're forgotten. All of our small businesses, particularly this year, are struggling in a way that they never have before. My office has helped get people PPP loans and EIDL loans and access these federal programs so they can stay afloat as we work through the fallout of the pandemic. Lastly, my 2 bigger legislative priorities have been career technical education, where we secured state funding to match local dollars. That's our pipeline to the middle class for a lot of our young kids that have the ability to go learn a phenomenal profession, get trained in that, get exposed to it when they're young, and go be an electrician, be a plumber, be a carpenter. There's tremendous opportunity. Welding, I mean, there's tremendous opportunity right now, since we're building things again in our state, to have a pipeline to the skilled trades and go earn a fabulous living right out of high school even. And so career technical education has been a huge focus of mine. We secured a state commitment to that grant program to match those local dollars and keep those funds flowing. And we've also fought in terms of being a voice for the voiceless. Whether we realize it or want to accept it or not, we have a human trafficking issue throughout California. We have a human trafficking issue throughout the world. Kids, a quarter of the victims of trafficking are minors. They get trafficked up and down Highway 101, and they're in our hotels and motels, bed and breakfasts, and what have you, massage parlors, you name it. So I'm proud to have authored 4 pieces of legislation that were signed into law to protect trafficking victims, get them resources they need to rebuild their lives, and give law enforcement and prosecutors more tools to go uproot that in our community before it really takes hold. So those are the things I've been working on the last 4 years, and I'm excited to have a conversation about what I should be working on the next 2 years should the voters choose to send me back to Sacramento.
If you'd like to close us out with something here with your final statement, Assembly Member, go right ahead.
I'll keep it pretty short. I think, I went through my record in the opening and what we've been able to accomplish for the community. I'd like to serve another term to keep working on these issues. I think we've got some big picture things we need to figure out with energy generation, how we replace the jobs we're going to lose at Diablo. And I want to continue working on these things. And we need to keep our eye on the ball to make sure this is a beautiful place. It's one of the best places to live in the country, probably the world. It's one of the best places to raise a family, probably the best place. We've got a lot of retirees on fixed incomes here. We've got a lot of people just trying to get by, trying to figure out whether they can afford to stay. And we need to make sure that we're not passing policies, whether it's tax increases or things that increase the cost of food and gas and so forth, that we're not pursuing policies that make it more and more expensive. We've got a major affordability crisis, and that's housing, and it's everything all the way down in our state, and it's very acute here. And I promised you to always put those considerations first and foremost in my mind when I vote to represent you.